So, we're building artificial intelligence that's on track to be smarter than us. But hang on a second. Who's teaching it the difference between right and wrong? That's probably one of the biggest, most urgent questions of our time. And that's exactly what we're going to unpack right now.
I mean, really think about that for a minute. We're creating these systems that are going to make huge decisions that affect millions of people. We're talking everything from loan applications to medical diagnoses, and yeah, even decisions on the battlefield. So what happens when the human is taken out of the loop and it's the code that makes that critical call?
And that, right there, gets to the absolute heart of the matter. An AI doesn't have a conscience. It doesn't feel anything. People do. It's a tool, sure, but it's a tool unlike anything we've ever created. And that means the responsibility for how it's used, that lands right on our shoulders. We're the gatekeepers.
Okay, so how on earth do we even begin to navigate all this? It feels like a giant moral maze, doesn't it? Well, to get through a maze, you need a compass. And for this, our compass is ethics.
Let's just break it down. At its core, ethics is simply the study of right and wrong. For literally centuries, it's been the framework we use to guide how we act, our fundamental rule book for how to get along with each other.
And this field isn't just one big blob of philosophy, right? It breaks down pretty logically. You start with metaethics, which asks those huge abstract questions like, what does good even mean? Then you've got normative ethics, which tries to create actual rules to live by. Things like, do the greatest good for the greatest number. And that brings us to applied ethics, which is all about taking those big ideas and using them to solve real-world problems in medicine, in business, and now in artificial intelligence.
So why all the fuss? You might be thinking, look, we've created powerful tech before. We've dealt with the printing press, the atom bomb. What makes AI a fundamentally different kind of challenge?
Well, first things first, we have to get past the idea that this is just a faster calculator or a more powerful hammer. There's a core distinction here that we absolutely have to grasp. Think about it. A hammer can't design a better hammer. But in AI, it can learn, it can adapt, and it can create new, more powerful versions of itself. It's the first tool in human history that can actually become the toolmaker, and that changes absolutely everything, all because of one single word.
Autonomous. The ability to act on its own. That is what separates AI from every single piece of technology that has ever come before it.
And autonomy isn't just one thing. It's really a challenge on 4 different fronts at once. The sheer scale at which it will operate, becoming totally invisible in our daily lives. The absolutely breathless speed of its development. The black box problem, where a lot of the time we literally can't see how it's making its decisions. And of course, its power to generate convincing fakes, blurring the very lines of reality.
So you take all of those unique characteristics and you put them together, what do you get? You get a moral minefield, a whole series of incredibly dangerous traps that we, as the gatekeepers, have to navigate very, very carefully.
And these are some of the biggest traps in that minefield. Because AI learns from our data, it also learns our biases, which leads to discrimination on a massive scale. It just vacuums up our personal data, creating huge privacy risks. That black box thing I mentioned makes it almost impossible to know who to blame when something goes wrong. And of course, there's the huge potential for misuse, everything from deepfakes and misinformation to automating entire industries out of existence.
Let's just pause on that first point for a second. Bias. Since we humans are the ones creating AI, and since it's basically impossible to eliminate all of our own biases, well, that means it's impossible to build a completely unbiased AI. It's just not going to happen. So the real question isn't how we get rid of bias, but how we manage it, and who is ultimately held accountable when that bias causes real harm.
And the stakes for getting this wrong are higher than they've ever been. Look, a single person making a bias call might affect one other person, maybe a handful, but an algorithmic error, a piece of biased code, that can be baked into a system and affect millions of people, instantly, all at once. The scale of failure is it's completely unprecedented.
So, all of this, it brings us to this critical moment in time. The source material we looked at describes humanity as being at a fork in the road. And to really understand just how big that choice is, we only need to look at a cautionary tale from our own very recent past.
Here's the fundamental problem we're always up against. Technology moves at the speed of innovation, but laws and regulations, they move at the speed of government. There is always a gap between the two, and that gap, that's where the damage happens.
And social media is the perfect kind of scary example of this.
The big platforms launched way back in the early 2000s. But it took about 15 years for the first major laws on online safety to get passed. 15 years! Think about everything that took root in that gap. Misinformation, mental health crises, all the societal polarization. Now remember that AI is evolving exponentially faster than social media ever did. We don't have 15 years to figure this one out.
And this really sums up our choice perfectly, doesn't it? We can't stop this wave of technology. It's coming. So we can either get dragged into a dark future that we didn't choose, or we can embrace these changes and actively steer this development in a direction that actually benefits all of humanity.
Okay, so we've laid out the moral maze and the minefield. It's a big problem, but how do we actually navigate it? What are the solutions people are proposing? What are the intense debates happening right now about how to regulate all this? We'll explore all of that and what could happen if we fail next time in Part 2.